I think it's time we talked about housing again, isn't it? After all, the dire housing situation is what brought me to this YouTube dance in the first place, and things have only gotten worse. Record homeless figures, sky-high rents, and house prices exceeding the insanity of the Celtic Tiger highs. I reel off those 3 highlights of housing so much that I really should just get it printed on a t-shirt at this stage, because let's face it, until the architects of this housing disaster are out of government, that is to say Gael and Fianna Fáil, things will just continue in the same vein. Our issues with housing start with the Celtic Tiger and Fianna Fáil. That was when being a landlord became all the rage and housing became assets and not just homes. Easy credit flowed and you weren't keeping up with the Joneses unless you had a rental portfolio. Then the credit crashed and burned and the housing bubble burst, and with it house prices fell back to more attainable levels. And yes, I mean that median house prices should not be nearly 10 times the median income. And yes, I said median, not average. Averages are pure bollocks and give a false impression of the reality faced by the majority, as high-income earners skew averages. So yeah, median house prices should not be nearly 10 times the median income. Whatever about vanity projects, homes in housing estates should be affordable, and after the crash, house prices crashed back to closer to what should be reality, in my opinion. Now obviously the crash wasn't just a property bubble bursting, it was a financial credit crash, and so, in the wake of the crash, mortgages became near impossible to come by. So housing, still a basket case. Then Fine Gael took over and saw what Fianna Fáil had done and said, hold my beer. Fine Gael have fine-tuned the houses as assets template from Fianna Fáil, only this time they've invited the vultures in to roost and to grow fat. They said, affordability and social housing, it's all about the money to be made. It is clear now that every single thing that Fine Gael have done when it comes to housing was done with one goal in mind: to make housing profitable again. And profitable it has become. And so here we are, a chronic deficit in social and affordable housing, record-breaking homeless figures each month, a housing commission report that slates government housing policy, vulture funds and investment funds laughing their way to the bank, and homes out of reach of so many. Millennials are the first generation to be worse off than their parents, and housing is the biggest reason why. So let's look at the housing failures, shall we? Where to begin? Well, let's start with that damning Housing Commission report. Ineffective decision making and reactive policy making where risk aversion dominates. Can't be risking letting those vultures fly away now, can we? Can't risk upsetting the rental portfolios of Dáil Éireann either, it seems. Remember, almost 80 TDs and senators are landlords, landowners, or both. And that doesn't include spouses. Just ask Micheál Martin about that one. Ireland has, by comparison with our European partners, one of the highest levels of public expenditure for housing, yet one of the poorest outcomes. And yep, we can see that clearly, can't we? Our social housing policy seems to be social welfare for landlords and vulture funds in the form of HAP and long-term leases. And don't get me wrong, HAP is a vital lifeline for a great many people who otherwise could not afford to rent a home. But HAP is a blunt instrument that should be phased out. It is a crutch used to delay the building of social houses needed and a social welfare payment for landlords. Then we have long-term leases, almost 9,000 long-term social housing leases at a cost of more than €3.24 billion over the 25-year lease span. €3.24 billion, and the government own absolutely nothing, not a damn thing at the end of it. You might even call it dead money. Generation Rent know all about that. One Dublin property is being leased at a monthly cost of €3,200, with 74 more deals costing more than €2,500 a month. They'll do absolutely anything to avoid building houses, won't they? And yet I say that and know that that isn't the full truth either. It's painfully obvious that this long-term leasing plan and HAP are simply ways of funneling taxpayer money into the hands of the already wealthy. And by God, those investment funds are getting wealthier by the day. Investment funds controlling more than €28 billion worth of Irish property have finagled their way into paying even less tax, despite what can now only be described as half-hearted for-show measures by our government to stop the aggressive tax avoidance behaviours by these funds. They've also managed to secure refunds of more than €25 million on tax paid over the past 3 years because, sure, why not? It goes beyond insulting at this stage, doesn't it? Oh, but there's more. Minister for Homelessness Darragh O'Brien reckons we need foreign investment. It's as simple as that. Now maybe, just maybe, if we cut out the bloody waste, we could actually build the social and affordable homes we need ourselves. And don't forget the €8 billion surplus. It would be such a shame if some of that taxpayer money went to benefit the taxpayer, wouldn't it? We also had on Taoiseach Simon Harris saying that the government has scope to hike taxes on investment funds bulk buying homes. You know what the key word there is? Homes. Not properties, not assets, homes. A basic human right. In my view, this practice of bulk buying should be banned outright. Hiking the stamp duty, ban it full stop. Otherwise, they're going to continue doing it and continue leasing out these homes back to the government, and the cycle of wasting taxpayer money continues. Highest levels of public expenditure for housing, yet one of the poorest outcomes. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? They've only gone and replicated the HSE. All that money wasted, thrown into a black hole, while mostly millennials look on from their childhood bedrooms. The social contract torn up and set on fire in front of our eyes. Absolutely criminal. A radical reset of housing policy was called for. Home ownership, and hell, even just reasonable rents, will forever be a pipe dream as long as Gael and Fianna Fáil remain in power, and probably for long after they've finally been thrown on the scrap heap, because the enormous mess they've made won't be easy to undo. They have successfully destroyed housing as homes. All the help to buy schemes in the world won't change the fact that housing has been inflated and propped up in the interests of nothing more than pure greed, while hard-working people suffer knowing that housing will forever be out of reach. The latter has well and truly been pulled up behind the haves. And while we're on the subject of the help to buy schemes in their various flavours, Galway Independent TD Catherine Connolly made an excellent point in Dáil Éireann recently when talking about the Housing Commission report. She said that the fact that consultants are needing to use these schemes to buy a home should be a huge red flag to alert the government that their housing policy is failing, and she's absolutely spot on. I mean, if a consultant needs help to buy a home, then how in God's name could a nurse afford one? How on earth could any essential workers ever hope to buy a home? It's just madness. Housing is inextricably linked to staff shortages in key and essential areas all across our society. We need more teachers, nurses, healthcare staff, guards and childcare staff, to name but a few. And yet, as a result of the dire housing situation, we are seeing a brain drain among our best and brightest, which is having a hugely detrimental effect on those key areas. Because why on earth would a smart person stay in this country where hard work will not even guarantee that you won't be fleeced on rent, never mind guarantee that you could someday buy your own home? The whole system is an absolute shambles, and that is the understatement of the century. Landlords and vultures making hay while society suffers. I've said it before and I'll say it again, we need an economy that works for the benefit of society, not the other way round, which is precisely what Fine Gael have been laser focused on achieving, hence the €8 billion in surplus, with no plans to use that to improve our infrastructure or services. Secure, available and affordable housing is the bedrock of society, and this government, and in particular Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, have consistently shown us that they only value housing for the money that can be made from it. Is this what we want? Is this the type of country we want to live in? One that that values money over the well-being of our society? Well, that's what we have, and it's patently not working for the majority of the younger generations who find themselves ignored and forgotten. Is it any wonder millennials and Gen Z have so many issues with their mental health? Housing, in my view, is the single biggest issue facing society at present. Yes, there are other stressors putting pressure on our housing system, but the failure of Gael and Fianna Fáil to see housing as anything other than the golden goose of increasing wealth is the root cause of our housing issues. If we as a country could build social housing in the past when we were dirt poor, then what on earth is stopping one of the so-called wealthiest countries in the world from doing it now? Absolutely nothing is the answer. Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil have destroyed housing as homes. There are no overnight fixes, but the absolutely essential first step in stopping this rot is to vote these failures out. That means turning up to vote and not a single preference given to the parties that have caused this housing disaster, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. The Greens and Labour have propped up this madness, so they won't be getting a vote from me either. We need to send a clear message that what they have done to housing is not acceptable. So what do you think? What did you think of the Housing Commission report? Were its findings a shock to you, or did it simply confirm what we all already knew? Do you believe it will focus the minds of government to attempt to right the wrongs, or will they just carry on as is? Do you agree that a radical reset is needed to fix our housing system? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of new content. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee or a super thanks, which is greatly appreciated, and a huge thank you to those of you that already have. You can also follow me on Twitter. Until next time, slán go fóill.